have two questions that are related to each other, so you can
Okay,
answer them
we gotta go quick.
simultaneously.
Let's go quickly with them.
Okay, so my first question is, because I know you read Greek. So in John 1:1, is the word that is being um this identified as God by John described as an adjective or a noun?
In the beginning
And
was the word. The word was with. No, it's a noun. And the word what you said, and the word was God.
yeah,
Okay,
is the
so
word is God being referred to the word as a noun or adjective?
no, it's a noun. What it is this: we have what's called a predicate nominative. A predicate nominative, um, I guess you can look at it like an adjective, but it's not. It is describing the classification or the category of what the subject is. So in this place, we have to figure out what the subject is. We've got two. Now the subject is always going to be in what's called the nominative case. The
Mm,
nominative case is the substantive. It's the case that every subject has to be in that case. Sometimes though, the subject is embedded inside a verb or a pronoun or a participle. We might say the
mm,
participle is substantival, meaning it's a substance. So
mm-hmm,
if we say high pistol one, we use that term all the time. The bleeding ones, that's a substantival participle. Okay, that is the it's a participle, it's a verb, but it's also the noun. It's also the subject. Okay, so here though we have a predicate nominative, and we've got two nouns. So we have to figure out what to do with these two nouns. Which one of these nouns is the subject? So in Greek, well, first of all, we don't have to worry too much about it. But if you've got a predicate nominative, well, you know what? I don't even do that. I don't want to confuse you. But in the beginning was the word. Well, what's the first noun used? Well, halagos. So what's the subject? The word. So the word was the thing that was in the beginning. Kai halagos, and the word was prostantheon, and the word was God. The word was with God. Prostantheos.
mm-hmm,
And the word was with God. And
mm-hmm,
here, Kai, Theos, and Halagos. So now, we in the second clause of this, we've got the B clause. We've got Theos that's also been brought in God. That's another
mm-hmm.
noun, and this is it's got the definite article with it. So the problem is though, is this a subject? Well, no, we already know that Halagos is the subject. So what is Tan Theon? Tan Theon is what we would call the predicate nominative.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we have here Kai Theos and Halagos. Uh, we have, since we already know that Theos is the predicate nominative, uh, and now the way you would read it in Greek is not the way you would write it in English. And God was the Word. Well, that's not how we read it in English because we already know what's the subject. The
Because
subject is
the reason I asked,
Halagos.
because I heard the reason why I asked, because I heard Daniel Wallace, B. Wallace said that you can interpret the word being God as the word was a God. So I'm
You
not
said
sure,
you said it could be translated as the word was a God.
Yeah, he said something about, and I don't want to misquote him, but he said that it can also be translated as the word was a God,
I
a
don't think
God.
no, I don't think he was saying that. I think he was saying that you don't translate it that way. That the word was a God. Now you wouldn't put it as a God because we already know that this is a definite noun. It's an
Mm,
anarthrous. It's a preverbal anarthrous noun, and so we would take this theos here as what it is. Now we already know that is the God. We already know that we already know that there's a definite article, even though it's an arthrous. We already know that you don't have to make this put a definite article there, even though it's an arthrous. We know that we don't have to do that.
okay,
Um,
all right.
yeah. Matter of fact, Rick Caldwell says he's got his book. I've got it here. Let me pull it up. Let me see if I can find it and pull up exactly what
And
he.
again, the reason why I'm asking this question too, because the final question is it necessary to to believe that Jesus is Yahweh in order for you to be a Christian? Could you still be a Christian and still hold to like a Unitarian perspective or theology?
Okay, that therein lies the $64 trillion question.
Yes.
Do you have to believe that Jesus is Yahweh? I think that is paramount and important.
Mm.
Someone says that Jesus is God, not Yahweh. The problem is, though, when we look at this text here, let's go to this text for, who said that? Jesus Lover 122. And let's read this passage. As it is written in Isaiah, behold, I send my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way. The voice of the one crying out in the wilderness, make ready the way of the Lord. Well, so what's he referring to? He's referring to Isaiah 40 and 3. So let's go to Isaiah 40 and 3, and let's see who he's speaking of. 40 and 3. He says, a voice calling, clear the way for the Lord. Well, what's the word that's used here for Lord? This word that's highlighted in the yellow is the word Yahweh. So, yes, he is. How's that quite fleshed out? How do we figure this out? Can I ask you a question? And let me also ask my Trinitarian brothers and sisters in the chat. Can a 6-year-old be saved? This is important. Can a 6-year-old be saved? I think everyone will say, well, if the 6-year-old understands, sure. Can a 9-year-old be saved? Well, sure, a 9-year-old could be saved. What about a 12-year-old? Yep. Do any of you guys know of a young child that you think is, now you don't know, but can you think of a young child that is saved? Now Jesus says, do not forbid these young ones from coming to me. So Jesus indicates that these young people can be saved. Do you think these young children that Jesus is speaking about, now we all believe in the Trinity, but do you think these young kids understood who he was? Do you think they understood? I don't think so. No. I don't think so. I think the issue is, though, are they denying that? When you're young and you don't know, I'm not denying these things. But if a person says, you know what, no, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I deny that, I reject that categorically, Jesus is not God. So when he makes a statement in John 8:24, unless you believe that I'm the I am, you will die in your sins. Well, to the 6-year-old, go find your local neighborhood 6-year-old and explain it to him. I've got a 5-year-old grandson who will tell you what he can about Jesus, but tell him that. Tell him that he is going to have a problem with that. But what he's not doing is he's not rejecting that. He just doesn't know. All he knows is that's Jesus. If he were there when Jesus was there, he would walk up to him and want to hug him and sit on his lap. And then we got people like Jeff who would stop. No, you can't go. Jeff would be in the crowd. No, you little kids, get out of here.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering.
Jeff and Rant Man and Monkey Moves and those guys, they were, no, kids, get out of here, you brat. I'm kidding.
No,
but my grandson would run up to Jesus. Now, the 5-year-old. The 2-year-old grandson would run up to Jesus, and we had to stop him. We had to hold him back because he wants to be Spider-Man and he wants to wrestle with Jesus. He gonna want to wrestle with Jesus, but he's 2. He's all right. He's 2. Yeah. But the 5-year-old, that's Jesus. He wants to sit on his lap but he doesn't know much. You can't. Yeah. That's, by the way, that's kind of how we ought to be. Doesn't mean that we ought to be stupid and dumb and ignorant. Those things, like as we get older, we learn about the word and grow into the word. But children have a hard time dissecting doctrine. But that's why he says, grow in the grace and the knowledge. You are going to have to grow. Exactly. He wants you to learn. Yeah. But it's going to take a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just wonder because I want to make sure, Corey, that my faith is in alignment with biblical Christianity. And so I'm just wondering if these like movements like oneness or Unitarians would they be considered heretics?
The movement itself are the people themselves that are in there. There are a lot of people that belong to groups that they should not be in, that God would say that's not what I'm teaching, but are saved because they just don't know. They're just ignorant. There are people who are Jehovah's Witnesses, who are Mormons, who don't even know what Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons even teach or believe. Their grandma brought them there. They grew up in the Jehovah's Witness, and then they began to read that one day. You know what? Let me go ahead and read the Bible myself.
Right.
And so at that point in time, the Spirit is in them and he ends up leading them away. You see people coming out of the Catholic Church, coming out of Mormonism, coming out of Scientology, coming out of a lot of different places because the Lord spoke to them. We have testimony people who were in David Koresh's cult. We have people who were in Jim Jones's cult who the Spirit was working in them and they came out of there. They said, wait a second, something's wrong. This ain't right. Thank God. They didn't go down to Guyana. Some folks even went to Guyana and then left. But they left. They didn't leave him because, well, I guess it may have been the Spirit. They left because something wasn't right. So, but that is, God is, your ignorance, you're not saved by what you know, you're saved by who you know, but who you know will cause you to learn more about him. Uh-oh, what happened? Oh, we got disconnected. I didn't do anything. I was right here. Didn't touch anything. It ain't my fault. But that's probably a good place to end. We are not going to be saved by perfect knowledge, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to try to learn as much as we possibly can. No, we want to get as much. In all our getting, we want to get understanding. So we are going to preach the Trinity, and to those who don't understand it, we are going to do our very best to labor with them. To the brother that was there earlier, the 35-year-old brother, there are some things that we just simply will not understand fully. Now, we're not going to force an understanding out of this. Doggone, I'm going to make sure that I can explain this. So somebody, I used to be like that. I'm going to explain it. I'm going to be the person that comes up with the way to fully explain the Trinity. Good luck with that. And I say luck for a reason.